ميشيغان.
صباح الخير ميشيغان.
احنا نبتدي الحلقه النهارده بفضل شاكر.
لا يا سامح، نحن حنبتدي الحلقه فيروز.
نبتدي بفضل شاكر.
لا يا سامح، فيروز.
ما كانت امبارح فيروز.
سامح، التراديشن تبع البرنامج كل يوم ببلش فيروز.
تراديشن دي انجليزي؟
انجليزي يا سامح، وهو ده اللي عندنا.
طب بس عندنا حاجه مختلفه النهارده.
صباح الخير وكل الخير يهدي لك صباح.
And good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, October 21st, 2020, and this is the Ray Hanania Show. I am Ray Hanania, special U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper and columnist and media consultant here in the United States. The Ray Hanania Show is brought to you on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, Michigan, broadcasting through Michigan, Ohio, and Southwest Canada. It's proudly sponsored by the Arab News newspaper, where I write op-eds and news and features, and sponsored by many other businesses, organizations, and charities from the Arab American community. The Arab News newspaper is the Middle East's leading English language print newspaper with editions in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Japan, Pakistan, France, and bureaus in London, New York, and Chicago, where I am based. I love reading my stories in French. They actually translate them into French. I'm going to learn Urdu and I'm going to learn Japanese too, okay? I guess I should learn Arabic too, but you know, what are you going to do? I'm a typical American. The U.S. Arab Radio Network was launched in 2005 by journalist and radio network founder Layla El-Husseini in an effort to energize and empower Arab Americans. Joining me today during the first segment is Shadin Maali, the campaign chairwoman and spokesperson for Marie Newman, who won the Democratic nomination for Congress in the 3rd Illinois District, which has the 8th largest Arab American population in U.S. congressional districts in the country. Maali and I are going to discuss how Newman defeated longtime conservative Democrat Dan Lipinski and how Arab Americans played a significant role in that victory. During the second segment at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be talking with national political consultant Jeff Davis of Victory Media Group, which manages election campaigns and marketing and advertising for candidates across the country. We're going to focus in that discussion on the battle between Biden and Trump and the Battleground states, two in particular that we'll talk about, Michigan and Florida. They're very close and can decide the election. And we're also going to look at the race between two Arab Americans, Darrell, Issa, and Ammar Campa-Najjar. This is the first time an election is being held where an Arab is guaranteed to win in the 50th district in California. Shadin, thank you so much for joining us this morning here at the show. It's the Ray Hanania Show. It makes me feel weird because I'm not, I'm out there all over, but I wanted to call it Arab election radio coverage. But Shadin, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Ray, for having me. It's a pleasure. And there's no better way that I'd like to spend my Wednesday morning is here with you talking about elections.
You brighten our radio show. People are watching because of you, not because of me. I can promise you that, okay?
I don't think that's the case, but thank you for having me.
Now, before I want you to give us a little background about yourself, but I want to tell our radio listeners and people who are watching on the Arab News Facebook page that Shadin is Palestinian American, just like I am. And, you know, for many years, now you're much far younger than I am, of course, but for many years, we were told be doctors, lawyers, and engineers. And Shadin, you did what I did. You broke the mold. You went into political consulting. You went into media, which I think is phenomenal because communications is a power. Give us a little background about yourself before we dive into the election in the 3rd District.
Well, first, I think the most important thing is that I'm a mom of 2 teenage girls. And because of that, I think that I really want to make sure that they have a wonderful and very inclusive world to live in. And my background really is all over the place. I've worked in healthcare. Right now I manage my husband's practice. It's an endodontic specialty practice. So I've worked in healthcare and have seen some of the, issues that have been going on with insurance companies, and also worked in education. When I first started out my career, as a, while I was going to student, to put myself, while I was going to college, to put myself through school, I was an academic advisor. And then also I worked in the recruitment industry in job placement. We specialized in C-suite level executive search. And we did placement all over the country, specifically in the building and design industry.
And why did you get into media and political consulting? That
right.
For Arab Americans, honestly, it's odd. It's unusual. There
Yeah.
should be more of us. And thank you for doing that. I know people tell me, Ray, thank you for your service, serving during the Vietnam. No, thank you for breaking the mold with me and others to do this. What got you in
Right.
there?
So you know that my family. You've known my family for
Forever.
Decades.
I know every Arab in the United States. I know every Palestinian.
You do. And my mom, who is
beautiful
a
lady.
news reporter, and she was a news reporter. She broke the mold back in the 70s and 60s when she became the first Palestinian American journalist, news reporter for Jordanian TV. And she, as you know, it was a very male dominated industry. And she thought it was really, really important to, reflect the Palestinian voice and especially the women's voice, that we're underrepresented, and especially in the Arab world, that, our voices a lot of times aren't emphasized and highlighted. So my mom, from a very, very young age, just taught me that it's important to speak up. And we have a public relations image. I think we are so demonized in the media, especially in the American media. It's changing now as more of us are going out there and speaking our truth, telling our story, telling our narrative. Yeah.
I want to give the fist bump, okay?
Yeah, no, exactly.
For the power.
That's right. And, especially for us Palestinian Americans. And, we usually hear just one side of the story about, what's happening from one perspective, but we don't hear the narrative of Palestinians living overseas, and then, why they've migrated here, in the early 1900s. A lot of people don't know that we are amongst the first immigrants to this country. And we've helped here in this district, specifically District 3, we have what's called Little Palestine in Bridgeview. Right. And we helped build out some of the most, successful businesses and social service agencies and humanitarian agencies that serve the whole community. I mean, not just Arab Americans and Muslims. We serve everybody.
This was the first time, I have to be honest, that I've seen Arab Americans really come together behind somebody like Marie Newman. Marie Newman is a phenomenal candidate. And, in politics, it is a lot like baseball. We were talking about it. The incumbent, he was a nice guy, a little too conservative, but it's kind of a conservative district. I don't think he did a very good job of speaking to Arab Americans. So it's obvious that Arab Americans kind of turned to Marie. There were other candidates in the race too, but what was it about Marie Newman's candidate that galvanized voters, Arab Americans and others, to win this election? Because that was a big deal. Winning the Democratic primary almost guarantees she will be elected November 3rd.
Right. So as you know, in the 2018 election, she came within 2% of winning. And
for listeners, that's about 2,000 votes out of 105,000 that were cast, which is very significant.
Yeah, and
she very close.
Very, very close margin, and people didn't expect for that to happen because it was what was labeled out there as the Lipinski dynasty. With the father at first, Bill Lipinski, and then a lot of people said that he handed over the seat to his son, and his son was not as dynamic as he was, that's for sure. And more importantly, he didn't really represent our district. Our demographics are changing. he refused to speak to us about some issues. As you know, you were saying that we have the 8th largest Arab American community in the country. I think we have the largest Palestinian American community in the country.
I
And
think
he
you're right.
refused.
I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think that is a fact. I think this has
Right.
the largest group of Palestinians of any congressional district in the United States. I'm going to start pointing that out when I write these stories now. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
absolutely. And because of that, I mean, we've approached him about some really important issues, about some human rights violations that are going on overseas with the Israeli apartheid regime taking advantage of the people they occupy, the Palestinian people. And we all know that the BDS movement has gained a lot of traction and has really put the plight of the Palestinian people on the map. And Dan Lipinski was trying to criminalize our right to boycott, and that is our fundamental right as American citizens.
He didn't seem to identify with any of the issues. Now, I never expect an elected official, and I don't expect Marie Newman to agree with me 100%. I don't expect to agree with her 100%,
Right.
but at least 75%. And again, I don't want to make this about Dan. He did lose the election. He comes from a great family. I've known him because I've covered Chicago politics for 45 years. But he didn't support any of our issues in the
No.
Palestinian community.
Right.
Marie Newman does, correct?
He
She supports a
co-sponsored
lot
the
of our issues.
anti-BDS bill, right? So we
Yes.
know that Lipinski co-sponsored the anti-BDS bill, and he didn't need to do that. I mean,
He
that
didn't.
was
You're right.
a bold move, and it was in line with AIPAC's values,
Right.
which are not in line with our values. And I believe a representative needs to align, if he's going to represent our district here, where we have a large Palestinian community, that he needs to align with if he wants our support, align with our values, which are not radical values. Our
Right.
values is to support human rights, to support civil rights, to support justice. So the fact that he didn't care and he denied and declined meetings with us to discuss some of these issues, it was a slap in the face. And I saw it as an opportunity to when Marie Newman came into the picture and wanted to run. She needed to be educated too on the Palestinian-Israeli issue. And by the way, I mean, you all know that this is not the only important issue to
Right, it's not, but
state.
it is a significant issue. But you're right, it's not the only one.
Yeah,
And I
we
knew
care about healthcare, we care about education,
Yes.
we care about incentives for small businesses. We care about refugees and immigration reform. We care about all those issues, and we are here as Americans. But and I should say, and at the same time, we care about making sure that human rights are not violated anywhere in the world.
Right.
Not
There
just
are a lot of
because
Congress is a great platform. I mean, you see Betty McCollum, you see Rashida Tlaib, you see Ilhan Omar, a lot of candidates, Arab and American, who speak out about Palestinian civil rights. We don't have to agree on the direction of the peace process and all that, but there's some fundamental basics that I never understood why Dan Lipinski never spoke out about the needs of Palestinians in this district. He's Polish American, and I very close to his father for a long time because he was a Chicago alderman, a great guy. But the son was so distant. He was very difficult to reach when it came to my own community. So it's just so nice to have somebody like Marie look at me and say, I know who you are, and I know what your issues are.
And she wanted to represent us on this issue. Now, and there was some controversy at first when we were educating her on BDS and the main important issue for me, and I know a lot of Palestinians in the community, was that we wanted to make sure that we would never, that we would always be able to practice our right to boycott, because it is a fundamental civil rights.
Yeah, we boycotted South Africa for how many years, and we were encouraged to do that. It was okay, a foreign country. How could we not boycott a foreign country, right? It's our right.
Right, and and now it's been labeled as anti-Semitic, and
which is not true, right?
And states are trying to criminalize it. And that is against our values here, our democratic values in our country. So Marie was very open to listening to us and representing us on these issues. And she specifically, out of, I think, 250 new candidates, she was the only one, political candidates, she was the only one to put on her website bills that she would support, like the Betty McCollum,
right?
I think it's the 2407,
right.
HR 2407 or 2409. Resolution that children could not be interrogated or detained unlawfully or forced into making confessions, and it's another intimidation tactic that's used often.
Shadin, let me interrupt us just for a second because we got to go to a break. Okay, my guest online with me is Shadin Maali, campaign chairwoman and spokesperson for Marie Newman, who won the Democratic nomination for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District in March. And the 3rd District has the 8th largest Arab American population in the U.S. of congressional districts and the largest Palestinian American population of all congressional districts. And Shadin and I are going to be talking about Marie Newman and the fact that she recognizes Palestinian rights. This is a first in Illinois from a congressional representative. We have so many Congress people that are so anti-Palestinian, like Brad Schneider up in the 10th district, introducing laws to do things to restrict us. So these are things that we're going to be, that the community needs addressed, whether you agree with something or not, at least talk about it. And Marie Newman is talking about it. We're here at the Ray Hanania Show on WNZK AM 690 Radio in Detroit, Michigan, proudly sponsored by the Arab News newspaper and the U.S. Arab Radio Network. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Shadin Maali and the 3rd Congressional District in Illinois. We'll be right back right after these messages. Water covers 71% of the world, and the Arab News newspaper covers the rest, with breaking news from across the Arab and Muslim world and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the headlines with expert analysis and insight at arabnews.com. Join 5 million Facebook fans who stay in touch with the Arab News, the Arab world's leading English language newspaper, online at arabnews.com.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Dana, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. Get ready for an amazing experience at Issa Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Issa Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Issa Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
And welcome back to the Ray Hanania Show. I am Ray Hanania, U.S. Special Correspondent for the Arab News newspaper, the leading English language newspaper in the Middle East. The show is brought to you by the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit every Wednesday morning through the election. And I'm also here on the second Fridays. I used to do a show here every Friday morning, but just so many things I've been doing and writing and everything. But I'm back every Wednesday morning. You'll catch us here with some great guests sponsored by the Arab News newspaper. And our guest on the line, a phenomenal activist, somebody who's done so much in politics. And I'm really proud of Shadin Maali, campaign chairwoman and spokesperson for Marie Newman, who won the Democratic nomination for Congress in the 3rd District, which is 80% Democratic. It's a little conservative. So I assume the Republican candidate that's running against her, Mike Frickalone, that Republicans have never won this district in, I'd say, 50 years. But this district has the 8th largest Arab American population, probably the largest Palestinian population in all congressional districts. And Marie Newman is listening to us. And it's a testament to that one of her, her leading spokesperson is Palestinian American.
Right. So when she asked me to be her campaign chairwoman, it was a hard decision for me to make because we did have an Arab American, Palestinian American running. And that was, I felt like I was taking an active stance and as being kind of the front facing person for the campaign. But to me, Marie had the strongest path to victory.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because she had some strong progressive groups supporting her here in this district and also across the country. And those progressive groups come with resources, and they also come with voting support, legs on the ground, volunteers, and that was the reason why I supported her, because she represented us on our issues. She gave us a platform,
and she could win, and she had a chance to win,
and she could win. So
she ran the last time. She ran the last election, came so close.
Came within so close, and I think if she didn't come that close, then maybe she wouldn't have received so much support from everybody. But everybody was pushing her to run, and I was on board with her for 3 years. So that was, the coalition building aspect is so strong. We don't talk enough about that. Aligning ourselves with various minority groups, various social justice groups. Now she has people on her campaign. She's the only one that has an interfaith peace and unity coalition that we actually attended many different areas in the district where we would talk about the issues that nobody else would talk about. That politically, you are taking a risk when you talk about some of these issues. For instance, Islamophobia. We talked about what happened with Sharon Brannigan and the Take on Hate Coalition, and how she's made some very derogatory remarks about Arabs and Muslims, and is still remaining as a prominent figure on the board.
Now, just so you know, as you know, I disagree a little bit about that issue. I've talked to her. She's apologized. And I believe, this is just me, not everybody agrees with me, but I'd rather have somebody who didn't like me, who says goofy, stupid things, and then recognizes their fault. So that's one issue.
The problem with that, right? And I'll just say it briefly. She still had very strong ties with Active America, which is the biggest hate group in the country. So, apologizing, but still, being seen at events with them is not really an apology. Then you got to change your behavior. But anyway, so that was one panel discussion. We've had discussions about immigration reform. We've had discussion about xenophobia.
But at least we've had these discussions. At least we're having these discussions under Dan Lipinski.
No. And again, most politicians would stay away from these issues and not make them a part of their platform.
Right. It's a sign they don't care about us when they don't discuss the issue with us. So even though we have a disagreement about one issue and an agreement about a lot of others, the fact is we talk about it, and it's part of our district, and you can't brush us aside.
Right. And how do we care? I mean, how do we build influence and power on our issues unless we unite on all these issues that bring us together. So if, for instance, the Black Lives Matter movement, what's happening right now, like we have a member of our coalition, Christian Perry, who is a leader and is bringing forth attention to what's happening, trying to create police reform. That's really important. And he's part of our coalition. And then we have Arnie Bernstein, who's an author and is a leader on a lot of what's happening with anti-Semitism. And he's a part of our coalition.
Right.
And then we have Berto Agoya, who is also a leader on what's happening in the Latinx community. So when you unite under this umbrella, this progressive umbrella that really tries to speak up for the human rights and the civil rights of everybody, you become more powerful and you have more influence. And for the first time ever, we have suburban moms engaged on these issues. They care about these issues. And when they make it an endorsement issue and they're making their decision at the polls about these issues, then you become a powerful voting bloc as a movement. So and Palestinians, our human rights issues, our civil rights issues, we fall within that.
And one thing about the Palestinian community, we respect women. We support the role of women. We give them much stronger support. And this could be debatable, but it's a priority. The fact that she was a woman was a major influence for me in wanting to see her win. And
I have to say too, some of the conservatives too, here's the thing now, we all know Marie has very progressive values.
Right.
And we have a large conservative Arab and Muslim.
How does she deal with that?
So the way she deals with that is everybody's civil and human rights needs to be recognized. So if, for instance, they come after the LGBT community and they tell them, hey, you can't do this and you can't do that, well, then they're going to come to us as Muslims and say, you can't pray like this, you can't do that. So I think that under the civil rights umbrella, that really in America, when we have a very pluralistic society, very diverse society, that we need to recognize that everybody has to have human and civil rights. And whether or not you agree with people's lifestyles is really not applicable, doesn't matter. The bottom line is everybody needs to, we need to make sure, that's why we have our Constitution, to protect our rights from that perspective. So when you, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, we only have a few minutes left, Shad, and I try to always explain to people, 30 minutes sounds like a lot, but I'm telling you, it goes by quick. I used to do that WLS radio show, and it would be 5 hours. And people would say, how'd you do 5 hours? I'd say, believe me, it goes by fast. Tell us about bringing the Arab American community together, because it was divided. The one candidate, he's a great guy, and I don't know what got into him. I told him I thought it was the worst thing he could do. Rush Darwish, good guy. I think he's on the wrong path, and I think people following him are on the wrong path when it comes to the 3rd Congressional District. Can you bring the Arab and Palestinian community together moving forward in this district?
Here's the deal. So I think it's important to look at who's running when you want to run for a position, and how much support they're going to be getting, and if you want to win. Now, if everybody has different objectives,
right?
So if you want to win, then you should look at the races that are happening. I really wish that he would have run for a different position, and he's a phenomenal.
I agree with you.
He's very smart when it comes to politics. He really is.
But bad move on his part. Bad political move.
For this particular instance, I don't know why he made the decision that he did, but anyway, everybody has a right to run. I mean, that's the beautiful.
It is, but in this case, it kind of hurt our community because it divided us. I was very worried. I was worried it was going to take votes away from Marie Newman, who proved that she could win. He only got 5,000.
She won by 3,000 votes. She won by 3,000 votes.
In spite of that division.
In spite, exactly. Our community, I know, because I had leaders in the community from the conservative realm, from the progressive realm that sought me out and said, how can I help you?
Right.
How can I help you? We want to have representation, and how can we support you? And that included people that, ordinarily are again very conservative and don't agree with other issues that Marie supports, but still wanted to support Marie because they thought she was the better, she was the path to victory.
And I think she's a great candidate. There's no 100% in politics. She represents most of the views that I have. I'm sure we have a few differences. Shadin, we're at the end of the segment, and I really apologize. What's the website that people should go to get more information on Marie Newman?
So it's MarieNewmanForCongress.com.
Marie Newman.
Has all her issues. Yeah, MarieNewmanForCongress.com.
Got it. Shadin, listen.
And she has all the issues there spelled out, really the most out of any other candidate. Her policies are in line with our district's policies.
All right, we got to have you back on after the election to look back at how things turn out. Shadin Maali, the campaign chairwoman and spokesperson for Marie Newman, who won the Democratic nomination for Congress in the 3rd District. Largest Arab American population in a congressional district, 8th largest Arab American population, and largest Palestinian American population in a congressional district. Shadin, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me, Ray.
All right, good luck. We'll talk to you again. This is Ray Hanania here at WNZK AM 690 Radio. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to bring on Jeff Davis, who's waiting in the wings, and he's going to talk with us about the 50th Congressional District between the contest between Ammar, Campa-Najjar, and Darrell, Issa. In that race, an Arab American is for sure going to win and get elected to Congress. We'll be right back right after these messages. Read the Arab News newspaper for the latest on the U.S. elections, the battle for president, and breaking news and unique stories on Arabs in America and the world, online at arabnews.com. The Arab News newspaper is the leading English language newspaper in the Arab world, with editions in France, Pakistan, Japan, Dubai, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and bureaus in London, New York, and Chicago. Join the more than 5 million people who follow the Arab News on Facebook, online at arabnews.com.
Good morning, Ray.
Hey, Jeff.
Shot's Mediterranean Market and Shish Kebab offers a great
Turn on
array
your
of your
video,
favorite Mediterranean
but don't
meals.
talk during the
Meals range from lamb
commercials.
specialties, shawarma sandwiches, seafood dinners, and they offer special big trays of your favorite food, plus much more. Gashot's Mediterranean Market and Shish Kebab address is 32839 Northwestern Highway in Farmington Hills. Their phone number is 248-538-9552. That number again is 248-538-9552, and the supermarket is open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Kashat's Mediterranean Market and Shish Kebab will definitely leave you satisfied.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain. When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600.
And welcome back to the Ray Hanania Show here at WNZK AM 690 Radio in Detroit, Michigan. Proudly sponsored by the Arab News newspaper, where I write op-eds, news, and features, and also sponsored by many other Arab American businesses, organizations, and charities. The Arab News is the Middle East's leading English language print newspaper with editions in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Japan, Pakistan, France, and bureaus in London, New York, and Chicago. Joining me now is, in our second segment, is Jeff Davis, a national election consultant with Victory Media. He manages election campaigns and for Congress candidates all over the country, and he does a lot, and we're really happy to have him on here. Unfortunately, we can't get his video. Are you there, Jeff?
I am. That's what I was going to say. I do all these things, but I can't seem to get my video going.
All right. Well, let's turn.
It says it's going, but it's
it's kind of strange. I'm really sorry. You must be in a secret place, going through election data someplace. Not at the Watergate, right? I hope not. Jeff, I'm going to turn off your video. I'm going to turn off your video then. All right, and we'll just do the audio if that's okay. So I got
that's fine.
Let's see if that works. There we go. That way we'll get the image up there. First, Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then let's dive into that 50th Congressional District in California, where 2 Arab Americans are running for office.
Yep. So born in Illinois, born and raised in Illinois. Started in politics in the 80s and went to work for Governor Thompson outside of Governor Thompson of Illinois, who was the longest serving and actually still is the longest serving governor in the state of Illinois, who recently just passed away. But been active in politics since then and gone from managing campaigns to consulting with national organizations on, different activities that they, tactics that they do during the campaigns.
And you've run a number of elections, and you and I were talking about the 50th district. I know that you kind of took a look at it. The one thing we can say for sure about that district race in California is an Arab American is going to win, right? That's about all we can say. How does it look, though?
To be honest with you, yes. Well, first of all, you are correct that Arab American is going to win. It doesn't really look like a competitive race, though. Cook Political Report is famous for kind of rating different congressional districts around the country.
Right.
They certainly aren't the end all be all, but a lot of people look to them to see how they're, ranking the different districts. This district in particular, they have likely Republican. Now, you just remember that, Ammar, Campa-Najjar is, this is his second run in this district.
Right.
In 2018, he actually put up a decent race against Duncan Hunter, who ultimately resigned in January and, was sentenced to 11 months in prison for corruption charges.
Right.
So I think coming into this race, I think the Democrats were kind of hopeful that Campa-Najjar could, put together a campaign, and then Darrell Issa just stepped in and decided to run in this district.
And Darrell has held office before, right? He's a Republican.
Campa-Najjar
is Democratic.
Been in there for a long time and retired, and has wealth of his own. I mean, I think I think he's pumped in almost $6 million, maybe at this point, maybe more, $6 million of his own money, even though Campa-Najjar raised, a very, very respectable $2.2 million in the cycle. So,
But it's a Republican
this is
district,
earlier
you're
this
saying.
year, so
Yeah. So you're saying
it
it's a
is
Republican district.
and
But
yeah, so Trump won it. Trump won it by nearly 15 points in 2016.
wow.
And if you go back to 2012, Romney actually won it 60-37 against Obama.
So this is an uphill fight
the
for
likelihood that
Campa-Najjar.
this year
Yeah.
being competitive is unlikely.
So with the fight though, and we'll talk in the next after the break in a few minutes, we'll talk about the Biden-Trump race and the battleground states. But this race between Trump and Biden seems like it's getting closer. Has that helped Campa-Najjar as the Democrat maybe get closer, but probably not close enough to win then?
Well, it's kind of like, think about it this way, Ray. You and I both live in Illinois, and we are what they're considered a flyover state as far as presidential politics are concerned. And really, California is too. The only reason, presidential candidates go out to California is to raise money. And
it's a big Democratic state.
Yes. So,
yeah.
No Democrat presidential candidate in recent history has ever had to worry about California, just like Illinois. The last time a Republican won Illinois, I think it was 1988. So George H.W. Bush.
Right. Yeah. So it looks like Darrell Issa, who has been in office, has been in Congress. I don't have his complete resume in front of me, but he's been very active in Republican politics in a Democratic state, but in a very strong Republican district. Looks like he has this race. Campa-Najjar is Palestinian American and Mexican American. I believe his mother is Mexican American. His father, it was very controversial. His grandfather was one of the individuals accused of orchestrating the massacre of Israeli Olympics back in the 70s. Now that was before Campa-Najjar, Ammar was born. So you can't blame him for that issue, and Darrell Issa, being Arab American, hasn't really brought that up. He's Lebanese and Syrian, and it seems like the two of them are focused on local issues in the district. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Campa-Najjar last time overperformed in the district by getting 48%. It's just Issa, with his money and his history, is going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, that's what I think too. We're on the line with Jeff Davis. He is a election campaign and political consultant with Victory Media, and he's helping us look at some of the elections that are coming up. We're going to take a break here real quick, but Jeff, any other races that you think people should be watching, congressional races, any big ones, Arab or not Arab?
Well, I mean, I don't have any specific Arab ones, but I'll tell you that the money is flowing. Nancy Pelosi's super PAC just 2 days ago laid down. I didn't really total it, but there was 23 districts across the country where they started advertising buys, I believe yesterday, and there's a few in California. They're all over the country, but there's 23 districts. There's probably about $15 million worth of ad space. It's quite amazing the amount of money that goes into these, and that's from a super PAC. So it's a Nancy Pelosi aligned super PAC that they just announced a couple days ago. So.
All right, let's take a quick break. Jeff Davis is going to stay on with us. And when we come back from the break, let's look at some of the battleground states. And, you've had a great grasp on which states really are most important. And, but it looks like if Biden can take, Florida and Michigan, he could take the election. So anyway, let's talk about that in a minute. We'll go talk about the different
Sure.
states that are in contention in the presidential race between Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back right after these messages.
Are you going to start a restaurant or a grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Najee Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Najee Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood, 734-744-9796.
إلي ساعة عم بستناك مشان نروح نتغدى بالشام.
الشام؟
إيه بالشام ومو بالشام.
شلون صارت هي؟
بدل ما نروح نتغدى بالشام
ايه
جابوا لنا الأكلات الشامية الطيبة لعنا لهم.
وشلون بقى؟
هذا مطعم دماس عم يعمل كل الأكلات الشامية الطيبة هو.
وطيبة؟
طيبة كتير.
شافوا نتغدى سوا بمطعم دماس.
الأكل الشامي الأصيل فقط بدماس كوزين. زوروهم على 28841 أورشد ليك بفارمينغتون هيلز، ولطلباتكم اتصلوا على 248-987-4609. That's 248-987-4609. دماس كوزين and catering، جبنا لكم الشام لعندكم.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937, 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
And welcome back to the Ray Hanania Show here on WNZK Radio AM 690 in Detroit on the U.S. Arab Radio Network, sponsored by the Arab News newspaper, where I write op-eds, news, and features. The Arab News is the Middle East leading English language print newspaper with editions in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Japan, Pakistan, France, and bureaus in London, New York, and Chicago. This coming week, we're slowly bringing out the results of a phenomenal Arab News YouGov poll of the Biden and Trump race and how the Arab world and Arab Americans view the election. So watch for those results and that data that'll be coming out this week. Next Wednesday, we'll have a program just analyzing all those results of the YouGov poll, sponsored by the Arab News newspaper. It's always fascinating to look at that. On the line with me right now is Jeff Davis of Victory Media. He manages election campaigns, including for congressional races all over the country. I've known him. He's a great guy, and he's never been wrong. So, Jeff.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So,
oh, boy.
I'm not going to ask you to predict the election, but I was just doing the math. And, I know thanks to you and I went through this one time, but it looks like there are a number of battleground states. But if Biden can take Florida and Michigan, where the difference was so like less than 1%, that would give him like 48 delegates.
Well, Florida's a big one. Florida's a game changer.
Yes.
So, I mean, here's the situation. With 2 weeks to go, the Trump campaign is really trying to reenact what they did 4 years ago. And they ran the table, to be honest with you. They don't need to run the table the way they did last time, but they're trying. So, the big states Pennsylvania, Florida, North Carolina. Those three are big enough that they could affect. So if Trump ran the table on Pennsylvania, Florida, North Carolina, he doesn't need Wisconsin. He doesn't need Michigan, even though he won them in 2016. Ohio, it used to be a battleground state. It doesn't seem to be. He's up decent there. Georgia, you're getting some different. Trump won it significantly, over 5 points in 2016. Some people say it's in play. Probably not. The one state that's a little bit different this year right now, that's a little closer than 2016, is Minnesota, which they're saying is a dead heat, and that actually favors Trump. But the bottom line is, through the Pennsylvania, Florida, and North Carolina, if someone runs the table there, the game is over.
Yeah. Now, Minnesota was a state that Hillary took, so that would be
Correct.
a loss for Biden if Trump were to take
but
that.
Even if Trump won that and Biden took Florida, it wouldn't matter. Florida,
Right.
Just to think about the electoral votes that they have. Florida's a big dog.
29.
Pennsylvania's a big dog.
29
North Carolina's
votes.
a big dog.
Yeah. And so in other words, so for people out there, if they're watching the election, they watch Pennsylvania, Florida, and North Carolina. If it looks like Biden is doing very well in those states and may win them or is leading in them, that's pretty much a sign that Trump is in trouble, correct?
Yeah, and the polling is close. Let's be clear. I think
Can't
some
believe
of
the polling.
pollsters
Can't
that I
believe
look
the polling.
at, Pennsylvania, huh?
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't believe the polling, except, of course, the YouGov polling. But outside of that, you can't believe the polling when it comes to elections.
Well, I mean, just to give you an example, some pollsters that I tend to watch, that I'm not going to say they're perfect, but
right.
Pennsylvania, they have Trump down 1. Florida, they've got Trump up 2. And in North Carolina, they have Trump up 1.5. Well, no matter how many respondents you have, your margin of error, the minimum is at least probably 3.9 to 4.9.
Right.
So what that means is they're all within the margin of error. They could go anyway.
Right. So the numbers don't, and
comes
plus
down to turnout.
Isn't there a problem with polling? I know that you got to poll based on the delegates and the states, and the weighted vote of states rather than popular vote, because Hillary won 3 million more votes than Trump in the 2016 election. And I think that Biden is actually going to get 4 million votes. And I think those extra votes are going to come out of Democratic areas where they've already got the numbers and the delegates. It may not change anything. Does polling kind of, is that a flaw in polling? Because we're dealing with popular vote versus a delegate vote system where each state is weighted, and that's completely different.
Well, that's why these national polls really don't mean a thing.
Right.
When they say, "Oh, national polls, Joe Biden's up by 14 points."
Right. Doesn't mean anything. Right.
Doesn't mean anything. He might be, but 10 of those points might come out of California.
Right.
And 3 of those points might come out of New York, and then everyone else is equal. It's just, it really, as you said, it comes down to the states. It's very close. It's a matter of turnout, and the question really is, Ray, is how soon will we know?
Right.
When, the difference is, vote by mail applications this year because of COVID-19 are through the roof. So, and what that means is you're going to have a certain amount of percentage that are going to be outstanding come election day.
Right. They're still trying to count them and receive them and number them.
Right.
But you're not surprised by the increase, are you? I mean, I know the left makes it sound like, wow, this increase in mail-in ballots and early voting is a big sign that we're going to have a bigger turnout. All that means is there are a lot of people afraid of getting coronavirus. I'm not going to the polls this year. This is the first year I'm not going to go to the polls to vote. I'm going to vote by absentee ballot.
So the difference is, Yeah, the elections changed this year. So in Illinois, if you voted in 2019 or 2018 in any form, they sent you a mail-in ballot application. That's
Right.
never happened.
Yeah.
So
they're pushing it.
thousands and thousands of people, huh?
So they're pushing it, in other words.
Yeah, they're making it available to people.
But it
and
doesn't
are
matter, does
sending in
it?
their thing.
But it doesn't matter in Illinois. Biden is going to win Illinois, and it doesn't matter if they get
Correct.
20% more votes in Illinois. And that's the flaw in this, this fear that, for example, the Democrats are pushing mail-in ballots. Yeah, it's going to work in the states they've already won. Is it going to work in a state like Florida? Where there's a big, fight between Republicans and Democrats.
Let me use North Carolina as an example. So, because I think North Carolina may be the key. I think Trump's going to win Florida. Pennsylvania still up in the air. North Carolina, Trump has to win. They've got a Senate race in there, Tom Tillis, that is really close, but their mail-in ballots, right? As long as they're postmarked by election day, they have up to 9 days to get that returned. So
that one state that might
close,
decide, that one state that might decide might take 10 days. Wow.
Yeah, and if there's, election authorities will know how many are outstanding.
Right.
And typically it happens every year. People just don't know it.
Right.
But they usually, the number that are outstanding are not enough to swing an election. That could be different this year. So, that could pose. So 9 days. What is that? November 3rd to November 12th.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're going to have a radio show going into it. That's why we're going to do an extra election show a week after November 3rd.
Right.
Because I don't think it's going to be decided. Jeff, we are out of time. And I'm telling you, 30 minutes goes by too quick. What is there a website that people can go to, especially Arabs who want to hire you to run their election campaign?
They can find me on Twitter at JD Davis 33.
All right, JD Davis 33. Jeff Davis with Victory Media and helping us to kind of sort through the battleground states and the weighted votes and the delegates. It's very complicated.
So let's do this November 4th, Ray.
Yes, we will do that. I think it's going to be interesting.
So in 2 weeks, and let's talk about, oh my God, what we know and what we don't know.
Right. To see what's outstanding, which states are outstanding and which ones, which way they'll go. All right. Jeff, listen, thank you so much for joining us here at the Ray Hanania Show on WNZK AM 690, brought to you by the Arab News newspaper, sponsored by Jeff. Thanks, buddy.
Yep. Thanks, Ray. Anytime.
All right. And I want to thank all the listeners at the Arab News Facebook page. So many people. We've had a great show this morning. Two great guests, Shadin Maali, who is the campaign spokesperson and chairwoman for Marie Newman in the 3rd Congressional District, which has the 8th largest Arab American population in U.S. congressional districts and the largest Palestinian population of U.S. congressional districts, and Jeff Davis in the second segment from Victory Media, looking at the election. I'm Ray Hanania. Remember, read the Arab News newspaper. Go to arabnews.com, and next week we'll be looking at the results of the YouGov poll. I'm Ray Hanania. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye-bye, everybody.
The views expressed on